and to give him a fair shake and not just judge them from the outside, and maybe to bring viewer a little bit closer to why they do it. And we didn't think that people like you and me necessarily would go jumping tomorrow, but I do think it's a valid point to see people that are willing to risk so much for a dream, because we grow up on this idea, but how many of us really do it? And to us, it kind of rubbed off as like, oh my God, what am I really willing to do for happiness?
And you, can I just, is Saul or Saul?
Yeah, you can say Shaul, but Latinos always call me Saul, and I lived in Mexico and was married to one, so I'm very used to Saul as well.
Okay, that's good. How are you doing today?
I'm pretty great. How are you?
Good, good. Thank you so much for your time. A pleasure to talk to you. And oh my God, I don't like to fly that much. So that's the whole documentary scared me a lot. So what was about this base jumping like that attract you and Christina to do this documentary?
Yeah, Christina is like you. She does not like to fly. I don't know. I would have loved to try, but I'm not willing to take the risk. But I think, I think it boils down to people who are willing to risk so much. But when we met them, we saw that it's not empty. It's not just adrenaline junkies. Maybe that's a small part of it. But you really saw the joy and fulfillment of mastery. And there is this kind of something magical about the dream of flight. Mankind has always had it. And we found it quite extraordinary to how these people, essentially with a piece of nylon, really, have learned to do this incredible sport and keep doing it in the face of great danger. And I think they find a lot of happiness in it. And we wanted to ask that question: when is it worth it? And to give him a fair shake and not just judge them from the outside, and maybe to bring viewer a little bit closer to why they do it. And we didn't think that people like you and me necessarily would go jumping tomorrow, but I do think it's a valid point to see people that are willing to risk so much for a dream, because we grow up on this idea, but how many of us really do it? And to us, it kind of rubbed off as like, oh my God, what am I really willing to do for happiness? Am I really risking with the life of the person I love and I don't hold them back? That's an interesting place to be.
Yeah, yeah. I kind of think that they have that like a itchy inside that make them do it. I don't know. It's something. It's for me. I can't. I'm afraid of heights. I can I fly on the airplane, but even though I'm afraid of that, it's crazy. I admire them, the courage and that feeling that they have, and not. I don't judge them to do it, but I was like, oh my God, I can't. I just can't. Anyway, so what was like the you guys been working in this documentary for quite some time. What was like the process? I know that those couples, those people are like pioneers on base jumping, but what was about them? Like why did you pick them? Why what
Yeah, we met Jimmy and Marta, who are a little bit the pioneers really early on, and they kind of introduced us to the rest of the cast. It was easy why them, because they are, as you're saying, kind of the mom and pop, and they were teaching people for safety, and so and they had all this rich archive. I think it took us a little bit of time to be like, oh my God. In the beginning, the movie wasn't supposed to be about couples. It was really supposed to be about the sport and the motivations. But when we saw, and then we filmed Scotty, Bob, and Espen, because they were some of the best wingsuit that were really pushing the edge. They were just doing stuff that was insanely strong. And so when we saw them grow up with relationships and start asking questions like, can I start a family? And when we saw the price you pay when there's injury, and have couples actually start, am I addicted to this? Can we be a couple if one of us doesn't do this? I think that is the kind of filmmaking. We are not usually extreme sports or sports filmmakers. We are social, political. We like jumping into characters. And so I think we were really driving to find these inner demons and what drives these people. But the sport is so beautiful that we also wanted to celebrate the beauty. And we looked for that juxtaposition. And so these cast of three couples, they each represented something that really drew our attention. And they really let us in, which is really important in a documentary, that someone is not afraid to show you the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah, exactly. And it's funny because one of them, I'm from Brazil, and one of them, Julia, she's from Brazil. And I was like,
From Brazil
always
also.
has a crazy Brazilian in the middle of in the mix. Everywhere there's a crazy stuff happening, there's always a Brazilian on it. So it was funny to see
Yes,
that.
Brazilians are very big in base jumping, and Marta is also from Brazil originally. She lives here a long time, but yes, and I'll say another thing about Brazilians I know. They're full of fun, and base jumping is a world full of fun. It's not afraid to live, and so I think yeah, I think that's why it attracts a lot of Brazilians to the sport.
Yeah. And you, for like, what was like your biggest challenge for you and Christina? Was to follow them? Was a lot of like footage that you had on the to narrow down to a 2 hour documentary?
Yeah, it was hard to narrow down. We started editing before Jimmy's accident, and that really changed things. I think the biggest challenge was, in a way, I'd say two things. The first is you fall in love with characters, but you are a journalist, you are a filmmaker, and you do have to ask the hard questions and reflect those hard questions. And finding that balance of accepting them, but also letting the viewer take their own decisions. I think the film doesn't make them heroes, it doesn't tear them down. It tries to show both, and it's always easier said than done. And the other challenges was kind of the obvious. We lost a lot of people that we knew. And when you spend a lot of time with people, it's painful. It's truly painful, and there's also this we called it the Jewish mom syndrome. You go up with them when you start following them, you're just, wow, this is so beautiful. Let me get the shot. But they become close friends, if you don't like the wind or you hear that they're fearful, you always want to be like, what the heck? Walk down with me. But that's not our job. And you do have to let them be free. And you do have to let them choose choices, even though you think those choices might be silly. And you end up looking at the video in the editing room, and maybe it's not your character, or it's not in the movie, but you realize this guy can't walk, she's gone. So on one hand, we always want people to get behind their dream and understand that they're not doing it. Jimmy used to have a great saying. He said, people think I want to die. If that was the case, I had 6,000 opportunities to kill myself, and I fight so hard to stay alive. They do fight hard to stay alive, and they live fully. And we try to celebrate that because they truly celebrate it, but be realistic, and finding that balance is a challenge.
Yeah, and it comes to the point that if it's your time to die, you're gonna die regardless.
Yeah.
If
I mean,
you know what I
we're
mean?
all gonna die. That's
No,
how
I
you
know,
live,
but
right?
if it's your time, like in life, doesn't matter if you base jumping, if you're in a crash, or if sometimes people are sitting down, and I don't
You know,
know.
it reminds me something I want to tell you really quick. Scotty Bob had a friend. The people we followed are fully in this world, but he had this friend who was a wingsuit base jumper. His name was Charlie, and he was a doctor, and he was jumping in the summers a little bit, and his life couldn't be far further at being a doctor in the United States. And then at age 30 something, and I asked him why. He said, listen, I want a life, I want kids, I want family, and I want to have fun once in a while. He got cancer, and thank God he's better and fine. But I remember when I talked to him, when I called him to just say, oh, I'm sorry to hear, it's okay, there was almost something in him that was like, what the hell? I was trying to not. And so, to your point, we don't know what life throws at us. So I do appreciate people who make a conscious decision. They're not just idiots throwing themselves into death, but they know what makes them happy. And if they thought about it really well, and they are only risking their lives, then I think they should.
Exactly. So, Saul, I just want to thank you so much for your time. That's my time to wrap, and say hello to Christina and a lot of success. And I hope that brings a lot of like inspiration, and because it's also a love story in your documentary. Thank you so much.
I appreciate it. Thanks.
Bye bye. Let me stop.
If you like to support or continue to support Jana on Camera, don't forget to subscribe, like, comment, and share the videos.